is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode brought to you by Before Your First Gig, an audiobook written by Steve Dustcircle and produced by Mark Gunn Media. If you're a beginning musician, this is a primer that you'll definitely want to hear. Tips and strategies for setting yourself up for live performances and paid gigs. Before Your First Gig by Steve Dustcircle. Available now on iTunes, Audible.com, and Amazon. Before Your First Gig by Steve Dustcircle. Produced by Mark Gunn Media. This episode, bent over for a bad deal. Your favorite musical artists and the record labels that almost broke them. We're going to be taking a look at some of the worst record deals ever signed by some of your favorite artists. One of the major headlines people are talking about in the world of entertainment is the lawsuit that rapper Megan Thee Stallion has brought against her record label, 1501 Certified Entertainment. Megan contends that the label is blocking her from releasing new music. Right now, she has a restraining order against them and has released her latest project, Sugar. The drama all started when she signed a management deal with Jay-Z's Roc Nation.
When I finally got real lawyers and people around me that knew what they were talking about, it was like some things in my contract are just unconscionable in the state of Texas. So it's like, well, let's just fix the things that are wrong.
The lawsuit is asking for at least $1 million and the termination of her contract. The suit alleges that the label engaged in fraud, breach of contract, and other violations of civil law. Megan Thee Stallion, whose real name is Megan Pete, says that she was taken advantage of and fraudulently induced into signing the contract. All right, so here's what's in it. And if you are or you know someone who's trying to get signed to a label, please listen closely. Megan got suckered into signing one of the most god-awful contracts an artist could ever sign, a 360 deal. This is a contract where a label takes a percentage of every stream of revenue that the artist generates. In Megan's case, she gets 40% of any profits her music makes. Her label gets 60%. Traditionally, that's a 50-50 split. Her lawsuit claims that her take is actually just 26% after a fee taken by 1501's distributor, 300 Entertainment. Her label also gets 50% of her publishing. A lot of artists get screwed in this way, and I've got more examples coming up. The label also gets 30% of her touring income. Back in the day, record companies did not touch that because touring was the only way that most artists made any real money while supporting a current album. 1501 also gets 30% of her merchandising, control of her merchandising rights, and a piece of whatever passive income she might make from sponsorships and endorsement deals. The next court date in her case is March 13th. As a radio station program director, quite often I served as the go-between for artists and record labels. Every now and then I'd make recommendations as to who I thought was ready to go to the next level. On the other hand, I'd try to educate the artists about the nature of 360 deals and to avoid them like the coronavirus. Now, Megan is still very young in her career, and without proper guidance, she made some seriously bad decisions. But did you know that even legendary recording artists can get screwed by bad deals? I'll tell you about some of them right after this. Before Your First Gig, an audiobook written by Steve Dustcircle and produced by Mark Gunn Media. If you're a beginning musician, this is a primer that you'll definitely want to hear. Tips and strategies for setting yourself up for live performances and paid gigs. Before Your First Gig by Steve Dustcircle. Available now on iTunes, Audible.com, and Amazon. Before Your First Gig by Steve Dustcircle. Produced by Mark Gunn Media. For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm Mark Gunn. We're talking about a subject that I'm extremely passionate about and have been trying to fight against on behalf of local artists for years. In fact, stick around. I've got some very valuable information that will really help any young artist get a little bit ahead in the game. In light of the current lawsuit being brought by rapper Megan Thee Stallion, I decided to take a look at some of the most notoriously bad record contracts ever signed by some of your favorite artists. Back in the early days of the record industry, shady deals were pretty much the norm. Even a legendary group like the Rolling Stones fell victim. They got shafted and ended up losing the rights to a majority of their music catalog thanks to their manager at the time, Alan Klein. The band had a publishing company called Nankerfelg. Klein started a company called Nankerfelg USA and made the band believe that it was the original company that they had started. In reality, Klein was the sole owner, and the Stones unknowingly signed away the rights to everything they released before 1971. One of the most widely known stories involves the group TLC, T-Boz, Chili, and Left Eye, and their former label, LaFace Records. Here's pretty much what happened. They sold over 10 million copies of their second album, Crazy Sexy Cool, which also won 6 Grammys. Now, you'd think that they'd be pretty much set financially, right? Nope. As it turns out, they were broke. Former TLC producer Dallas Austin.
The label is the bank. It's no guarantee for them to get their money back. Pretty much tie you up every way it's possible to get their money back because there's no surefire success rate. And at that time, to shoot one video was, even if it was going to be a low-scale, normal video, it was $150,000. Remember, the Ain't Too Proud to Beg video was like $175,000. By the time you do the shoots and you go to radio, and the girls also don't know how this deal is set up. You know, they don't understand anything about the business at that point. So it seems like you get signed, you sell records, you make a lot of money. You know, and as the girls start to take off, you didn't really understand that, yeah, we're having success, but it takes more money now to be successful. And so by the time you do another video, and they're going to get better and better, then your balance is through the roof. And according to the deal at that time, you know, what you're supposed to get based off the deal, that wasn't enough. Considering a success. The deal was based off of no success, kind of, you know.
All right, let's do the math. There are 100 points to every album. A point is a percentage of the sales of that album. 1 point equals 1%. TLC had 7 points on this particular album. At the time, each point was worth 8 cents. So 7 points times 8 cents equals 56 cents for TLC. Now remember, Crazy Sexy Cool sold 10 million copies. So that's 56 cents times 10 million equaling $5.6 million. Now, here's where things get really crazy. When an artist signs a record deal with a label, they usually get an advance. That's money loaned to them in order to finance the cost of recording, producing, and promoting the project. That's money that TLC had to pay back to LaFace Records. So after paying back $3 million, they were left with only $2.6 million, putting them in the 49th percentile tax bracket. So after Uncle Sam got his, they were left with only $1.3 million. Split 3 ways, and you're talking about $300,000 each, if that. The group ended up filing for bankruptcy. One of the biggest stories from this past year involved Taylor Swift and losing the masters to her first 6 albums. Her former label, Big Machine Records, sold them to Scooter Braun, a producer that she had beef with in the past.
Swift, who signed to Big Machine at the age of 15, has sold more than 40 million albums for the company. Swift switched labels and signed with Universal Music Group in an effort to own her music moving forward. She has often spoken up for the rights of songwriters, even taking tech giants like Apple and Spotify to task for what she claimed were unfair business terms.
According to Swift, the deal essentially prevented her from performing some of the biggest hits from those albums, and the label never gave her the opportunity to buy her masters. Coming up, an artist who spent years at war with his former label and wore his disgust on his face. Plus, I have some information designed to help new artists navigate the ins and outs of the music business. Right after this. If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. If you're listening to this program right now, this is where you'd hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor of Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your commercial is professionally produced and gets a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshot Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program unlike anything else in the marketplace. Episodes are available for download on iTunes, TuneIn, and MarkGunMedia.com. And depending on how you tailor your message, the potential for new and repeat customers is that much greater. Best of all, it's extremely cost-effective. If you'd like more information on how you can be a sponsor of this broadcast, call Mark Gun Media, Inc. at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or log on to markgunmedia.com. For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. We're talking about bad music industry deals and some of the artists that were victimized by them.
The industry just wants to rate and take. Labels should do what's fair, and that's why the artists today are saying, record company. And they should.
You'll want to stick around because I've got a very special offer that contains some information that will really help any young musician get ahead in the game. In addition to getting caught up in a really bad 360 label deal, where an artist pretty much goes into slavery for the record company, another big fight you're hearing more and more about is owning your actual master recordings. I told you about how Taylor Swift got screwed out of her first 6 albums, right? More and more artists and producers are speaking out about it, like Pharrell Williams.
We work in a business where it is okay to own other people's masters. That's insane. That's like you owning my ID and telling me when I can and can't cross the street and when I can eat and, when I should pay my taxes. That's the business that we're in the music industry. Everybody should own their masters. If major labels want to do deals with artists to partner with them, great. Partner with me, but don't own me.
One of the most prolific battles in music involved Warner Brothers and Prince. Back in the early 90s, you'll remember that there was a time where he wore the word slave on his face. The reason being that Warner Brothers wanted to control when he released new music, and they didn't want to give him his masters.
It's obvious now that artists are supposed to own their master recordings. I mean, in the future, it'll be unconscionable to even think you can take somebody's creation and claim ownership of it.
When a label owns an artist's master recordings, they can pretty much do whatever they want with them, including getting other artists to do cover versions of their biggest hits.
My problem is when the industry covers the music. See, covering music means that your version doesn't exist anymore. A lot of times people think I'm doing Sinead O'Connor's song.
Right.
And Shaka Khan's song, when in fact I wrote those songs. And it's okay when my friends ask to do them, but there's this thing called the compulsory license law, which allows artists through the record companies to take your music at will without your permission. And that doesn't exist in any other art form, be it books, movies. There's only one version of Law and Order.
Yes.
There's several versions of Kiss and Purple Rain.
And there should be one version of music.
You would think.
By changing his name to an unpronounceable symbol, Prince surmised that he was no longer obligated to Warner Brothers Records. In the end, after releasing a bunch of hurried projects, he ended up getting his release from the label and complete ownership of his master recordings.
A big change happened for me in year 2000 because I went back to using my name again. Recently, Anita Baker called me and we spoke about her view of me writing slave on my face at the time. She said she didn't understand it at the time, but right after that, she had a lot of wars with her particular record company. And she's free now, and she owns her masters now. So she says to me, I didn't understand it then, but I do now. I get it.
Gaining complete control over every aspect of one's career is the bottom line. However, one of the problems an artist runs into is how to control the distribution of their music. In the early days of file-sharing sites like Napster, Prince saw this as a problem.
It's a double-edged sword. A lot of artists aren't getting paid full scale for their art, and the internet, because of downloading and things like that, is kind of like a black hole, and it's hard to audit, it's hard to get accounting, and it's not that it's just about the money, but it's about justice and fairness. And when people say that they love you and they respect you, but at the same time take 80% of your earnings, then expect you to fix your own communities, and we're at the wrong end of it right now. So eventually, with courageous people going out there and actually saying something and standing up for it, I think we'll get some balance.
In subsequent years, Prince went on to develop a business model that a lot of musicians are using to this day.
In a lot of ways, the trailblazer for the modern concept of an artist owning their masters is Prince. He got out of his deal with Warner Brothers, he fulfilled the contract, and he went on to do a succession of one-off deals. Every time he'd release an album, it was a one-off whereby he owned the masters, he licensed it to a record company.
And that record company, in turn, would handle the distribution. However, Prince kept most of the profits. A classic example of this is the story of how he made $10 million from the sale of one album that didn't even sell 500,000 copies.
Crystal Ball sold upwards of 200,000 copies at $50 a pop. 200,000 copies by industry standards would be a failure, but when you take the lion's share of the profit, what happens is, as far as distribution goes, being in a situation like this, you can distribute your music all kinds of different ways. We sell them at the gigs, we sell them over the internet, and by the way, people of color need to get online. We are left behind again, once again.
The rest, as they say, is history. Up until his death a few years ago, Prince fully embraced the concept of releasing music without the backing of any record label or major distribution. And more artists are doing it to this day. Very few of them feel the need to get involved with a record label at all and are finding ways to get more of their music out to more people. However, there are still some that see the benefits of getting signed.
To get to the point of whether you personally need a major record label, you have to know what you want and what you're willing to give up. Creative freedom is not happening on a record label. Their attitude is going to be, it's our money, so it's our choices when it comes to your content, fashion look, and what you will be paid. But if you don't mind putting in the hard work and have a reliable team already around you, like management, entertainment law, accounting, producing, publicity, and touring, then just stay independent. Chance the Rapper, Macklemore, and Russ have maintained quite a bit of independence over the years. Cardi B dropped many mixtapes, but signing to Atlantic Records took her and her smash hit Bodak Yellow to late night shows, Coachella, and performing at the fight between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. The level of stardom that Cardi B has now, to the point that Nicki Minaj is fearful of her queen of hip-hop status, is just not a reality in an alternate universe where Cardi B may have chosen to do it on her own.
Here's my bottom line. From this radio programmer's perspective and someone who's seen his share of musicians make bad choices, I will continue to preach, as I have over the last 30 years, that young musicians learn everything they can about the music business before swimming into those shark-infested waters. There are things you need to learn even before you start performing in public. To that end, I have a very special offer for you or that musician in your life. I have an audiobook that I collaborated on with author Steve Dustcircle. It's called Before Your First Gig. It's written specifically for the new band or artist just getting started. In about 15 minutes, we will give you the blueprint for setting up to give live performances, marketing your band, and making your music presentable to the masses and the audience that you're going after. Thousands of dollars in sound advice for, get this, $3.99. That's right, $3.99. To download your copy, simply go to my website, markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com, and the link is on the homepage. It's available from Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. Just click the link that you prefer. As an added bonus, with the proof of purchase, I'll send you the Mark Gun Media Artist Starter Kit at no additional cost. In it, you'll find all the resources you need to learn about music licensing and publishing, how to register your music with BDS and SoundScan in order to get radio airplay. There's also information about how to become a member of ASCAP and BMI. All the forms you need are included. And finally, the relationship between music and money, how you can cash in. Once you've downloaded your copy of Before Your First Gig, send me an email confirmation by going once again to the website, markgunmedia.com, and hit the Contact Us link. Just give me the name of one of the chapters you heard and any feedback about the book that you may have, and I will send you that Artist Starter Kit. Thousands of dollars worth of information for just under $4. You won't find this anywhere else. Remember, go to markgunmedia.com and download Before Your First Gig from the link on the homepage. Reach out with your proof of purchase by giving me the name of one of the chapters you heard, and the Mark Gunn Media Artist Starter Kit is yours at no additional cost. Here's hoping that as you go on your musical journey, you find freedom in being creative and being in complete control of your destiny. You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gunn Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.